This is Judge Joe Brown, and we're listening to We All Be News. News-free Dixie for the 21st century.
And welcome, family, to another wonderful edutainment, infotainment edition of The Artivist Thinks on We All Be News, Radio, and TV. I've been realizing that everybody really have been waiting patiently for my take on the recent successful biopic, or like I call it, biopic of NWA, entitled Straight Outta Compton. It is official. It is a blockbuster, a Hollywood success story. Straight Outta Compton made over $60.2 million its opening weekend, which is actually a box office record for a R-rated movie. That's $60.2 million. And I believe it probably didn't cost maybe but a fraction of that to make, actually. And people are surprised that this movie has done so well so far. People are actually surprised that this movie has done so well. Think about this. When a person writes a best-selling New York Times bestseller, it's like a movie like 50 Shades of Grey. Or let's say even like Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. And or even hell, let's go to the Twilight series. And it's transferred from the written word to the movie screen. Nobody is really surprised that those movies make a lot of money. Why is that so? It's because they sold millions of copies of books. Now think about it. This is a rap group that this film is based on, Straight Outta Compton, NWA. One of the most influential as well as controversial rap groups. They was able to move over 2 million copies of their debut album without little to non-existent radio play. So if a group is able to move 2 million units without getting significant airplay, and they already have a following, I mean, they sold millions and millions of copies of records around the world. They have a following. Then you got two people who are arguably some of the most successful, not only in rap history, but also in music history, some of the most successful artists. People like Ice Cube, who's also a movie star. People like Dr. Dre, who's arguably one of the greatest music producers of all time, but also a successful entrepreneur as well, with the recent buyout of Beats by Dre by Apple, his successful line of headphones. These guys are highly successful, very well respected in their field. They have a huge following. They have sold a ton of albums and records and stuff like that. So why wouldn't the movie be a success? Duh. Then people talk about, security risk at the movie theaters. Like, this movie's being shown at a ton load of theaters throughout the country, and people are also concerned that people might get a little bit rowdy. There's target, black people. Black people might get a little bit out of hand. But hell, not the last high profile movie shootings or mass shootings at movie theaters been angry white men. I mean, when the last time a black person did a mass shooting at a movie theater? Come on, when has that ever happened, really? So, I mean, it's still a fear of a black planet here in America. But also, there's still a disbelief about the power of the black experience. Like, not only the power from a spiritual and emotional standpoint, but also from a financial standpoint. You look at American history, it's really a gangster rap song. Or maybe an album. Maybe a double CD album. It's a gangster rap story. The story of America. You talk about, greed and genocide and misogynistic tendencies and a culture that's violent. Dr. King said that the greatest purveyor of violence on the planet today is my own government, to paraphrase him. And to even go back to Tupac, who's another icon who's getting the film treatment hopefully very soon. Hopefully they don't fuck it up. He said niggas been dying for years, so how can they blame us? Repeat, this is from America's Most Wanted, from his All Eyes on Me album, the first double rap CD in history. He said, niggas been dying for years, so how could they blame us? So furthermore, how can America blame NWA for violence, for misogyny, for all this stuff? Because this is the culture of America. This is America's story. You know, NWA say fuck the police. They said that. And then a couple years later, the riots happened, the L.A. riots. But you had, back in 65, the Watts riots that happened. Back in August of 65. You know, from I think August 11th and August 17th, L.A. Burn, Baby Burn, back in 65, the Watts. Then also the debut album of NWA happened August the 8th, 1988. This is Black August. I always tell people Black August is the month of Black Rebellion. It's Black History Month. You can make an argument for that, and you can be very well supporting the argument based on the different insurrections, revolutionary movements, different revolutionary figures that were born this month. People like Marcus Garvey, born on August the 17th. If you look from a musical standpoint, look at people like Satchmo Louis Armstrong, born August 4th. Charlie Yardbird Parker, born August 29th, the same birthday as Michael Jackson, the king of pop. So you got the king of modern jazz and the king of pop born on the same day. Then on August 30th, you got one of the most revolutionary social justice figures this country ever seen, the 21-year-old Fred Hampton, who was assassinated by the state. He was born August 30th, 1948. So you got, this is Black August. You know, George Jackson, Soul Dad brother. Recently, his best friend, political prisoner Hugo Pinell, was assassinated by the state this past week. So you got all this stuff going. The Ferguson stuff happened in August. Mike Brown got killed on August 9th. The Ferguson rebellion, or whatever you want to call it, reactionary movement happened. Black Lives Matter. The hashtag was born around this time last year. Nat Turner's insurrection happened in Virginia back in August of 1831. And you look at the Haitian Revolution, and you know, it goes on and on and on. Also, the killing of Emmett Till, yada, yada, yada. The March on Washington happened around the same time, August 28th, 1963. Just keep on going on. But, yes, Black August. So, with NWA, the movie is released also in August of 2015. Made a shitload of money. $60.2 million, can't be wrong. Certifiable hit. On his way to the century mark. And what's left? So, why was people surprised once again that this movie made the money? It should have been no surprise. Because America loves violence like flies love shit. America is drawn to that violent thing. For example, you know, you look at all the police brutality still going on. I mean, that's why they're so relevant. It was showcased throughout the movie, the police violence, the overzealous nature of the white power structure when it comes to people of colors. Some people call them minorities. I call them people of color. I call them black people. You know, it was all detailed, you know. And well done. The movie was well done. F. Gary Gray, who also directed The Italian Job. But before that, Friday, A Man Apart, Set It Off, music director extraordinaire. I mean, this guy had experience. You know, he's good friends with NWA. Got over a 20-plus year relationship with these guys. Actually was the cameraman for D. Barnes. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. About what the movie did not talk about was what they did talk about. But I was, you know, impressed by the previews I've been seeing for months. And the acting was superb. The storytelling was superb. Production quality was very high. Very well done. You know, and what was amazing about the movie to me is the fact that you look at Jason Mitchell, the newcomer from New Orleans. You know, also Katrina happened this month 10 years ago. So it's Black August, y'all. So Jason Mitchell is a native of New Orleans. And he did a hell of a job with Eazy-E. You know, he's not necessarily, he's Eazy-E's height. He's about 5'5", like Eazy was. He's not necessarily his skin tone. But here's the beauty about him. You can tell he's a great actor. He tapped into the Eazy-E spirit. He got the essence of E. You know, I never met Eazy-E, but I love Eazy-E's music and stuff. I grew up on that stuff. It was tragic that he passed away so young at the age of 31, 20 years ago. This year, March 26, 1995, he passed away. But this guy, like, he contact Eazy through a Ouija board or something. 'Cause he had his spirit. He had his essence. It kind of reminds me of the Denzel Washington's portrayal of Malcolm X back in the early 90s. Denzel is darker than Malcolm, but at the same time, he's Malcolm. You can't mistake it. That's what great artists do. They inhabit a certain space. They recreate a certain reality. Like Picasso said it best, art is a lie to make us realize truth. And Jason Mitchell, my head's out to him, masterful job playing Eazy-E, bringing that man back to life without the use of a 3D hologram. And also a shout out to brother Corey Hawkins, who did a masterful job of portraying Dre as well. And the reason why I said it, because he just really captured the essence of a guy who was obsessed, who had a vision, who had a goal, who was able to manifest this reality out of another reality. I mean, because black folks in general, we are the alchemists of the universe. We turn shit into gold, y'all. You know, and it's proven because even look at NWA from their humble beginnings in Compton to where they end up, you know, becoming a iconic status in their genre of music, and also even in American pop culture, begrudgingly so by the powers that be, maybe iconoclastic. But the movie was well done, well written, well directed. I mean, it's a classic. It's an instant classic because this is one of these movies that you could actually look at it again and again and not get tired of it. It's kind of like, you know, I look at Martin Scorsese's movies like Goodfellas or Casino, or I look at the Godfather trilogies. Even Godfather 3 was one of my favorites, which I think is underrated by most people. But you can never get tired of those movies because they're classics. You always get something from those movies when you look at them, regardless of what, you know, you've seen it about 20,000 times. There's always something new to be looked at, something to be considered, especially if you keep on living life, when you become more exposed to different experiences and things. I think it captured the essence of the time so well. And also it struck the chord with a lot of people because, like I said, the police brutality is still rampant right now. You know, it's like 100 years ago, there was a black person getting lynched every day or day and a half in this country. Now there's a person getting killed or brutalized by the police every day or day and a half, or I guess 28 hours, according to the Malcolm X grassroots movement. So, the stuff they talk about, unfortunately, still relevant. Just like the stuff that Dr. Carter G. Woodson talked about in his seminal work, The Miseducation of the Negro, is still relevant 80 years ago. I mean, 80 years to now. It's still relevant 80 years now. And which is unfortunate because I think that he didn't want to make what he wrote back in the early 30s still relevant today. I don't think that was his hope. And I think NWA, I remember, like, you look at the interviews and then Eazy and them talk about how folks couldn't believe what they was doing, but they phrased it well in the movie Reality Rap. And then when people started seeing the Rodney King video, it really brought it home to America. So imagine how much this stuff was going on without the use of social media and camera phones. You know, how much of this stuff we was missing when people hear about black folks getting brutalized and they thought we was making this stuff up. But, you know, it's been documented through other means as well. The brutality and the nature of the police state that we live in. So, yeah, the movie was well done. Kudos out to everybody. It's well deserved. And, you know, criticism I have is not necessarily just directed at that movie. It's directed at the thought that people, when they look at these movies, they think that they are the official or definitive story of the story. And really, film, like any other art, is just propaganda. Like I said earlier, Picasso said art is a lie to make us realize truth. The movie has a lot of truth in it. It's, you know, a lot of things. It has some facts in it too, but everything you see is not factual. Like they say, you can't believe everything you see, read, or hear. You must have a discerning spirit. And with that said, I would hope that people will use this film not only as a discussion piece, but also as a jumping off point to do their own research. And thank the Most High that we got the accessibility to the internet, that we got access to information just at our fingertips. Like it's like praying to God and having your prayers answered when you able to Google things on the internet or what you do, because there's so much stuff available, especially with YouTube. You can hear people in their own words. You don't have to take no secondary or other sources. You can get the primary source. So you got interviews with NWA from back in the day, individual members as well as surviving members. We also got Eazy-E in his own words, and I'm gonna talk about Eazy-E in a little bit. But I just want people to get more interested in finding out information for yourself. Because when you do for self, you get rewarded. And it becomes a reward for other people as well. You become more of an asset than a liability when you are able to do for self, discover information, apply the information to attain knowledge, not only knowledge, but to attain wisdom and understanding, and to be able to share that with your people, with your circle. So with the movies, like, I'm reminded from Malcolm X once again, how, people will say, well, I saw Malcolm X the movie. It was about, 3 hours of movie, but Malcolm X lived for 39 years on this planet. So it's hard to fit 39 years of living into 3 hours, no matter how ambitious. And a lot of things, everything is always on no edge of seat moment in 39 years of living. Even if you're Malcolm X, you might have some slow time, some drag time. So with that said, when you meet people, I talk to folks, they're good people, but they'll say, well, Malcolm was saved in prison by Minister Baines. And Minister Baines do not exist. See, in Hollywood, they use a technique called the composite character. This is a character that's a stand-in for like several different people. And for whatever reason, maybe political, maybe financial, maybe, it's all type of reason why they might not include the actual person in the movie, on the narrative of the movie, for whatever reason. So they have the composite character where this person represents or symbolizes the protagonist's relationship with several different people, and they put it on one character. So Mr. Baines is actually the stand-in for Malcolm's family. It was Malcolm's brothers and sister that got him to turn to the Nation of Islam, because they became black Muslims before he was a black Muslim, and they would write to him in prison and whatnot and tell him about, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam. So it was actually his family who got him to become a Muslim, who helped Malcolm transform into becoming a black Muslim. So that's not told in the movie for whatever reason. The movie was actually, the film rights to Malcolm's life was sold by Betty Shabazz to a Hollywood producer. I call it Hollywood, but let's say it's Hollywood, okay? Named Marvin Worth, I believe, back in the early 70s. For, I believe, like $100,000. He sold his film rights. And that movie made hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, you could turn on TV right now and probably see Malcolm X movie starring Denzel, directed by Spike Lee, somewhere in the world. It made hundreds of millions of dollars, and the family did not get one red cent, I believe, of the profit from that movie. She sold the film rights back in 1970s. So it took them over 20 years just to make Malcolm X movie a reality. That's what people don't understand too, is that, people don't understand that these movies, a lot of times people buy the rights to these stories, and these movies may get made, and when they do get made, it might take years. It took Ray almost 20 years to get made. It took Taylor Hackford almost 20 years to make Ray. And it took, Malcolm X feature-length movie, it took about 20 plus years to come on the scene. So this is the politics of the system that we're dealing with. People say, why is there not more movies like this? Because it take a while. Especially if you don't have the resources or the deep pockets to put it out yourself. There's a lot of politics at play. You can make a movie, but then you got to deal with distribution. It's like that if you're not in the forest when a tree falls, does it make a sound? It's like if you make a movie without distribution, was it ever really made? Because who would see it? So there's a lot of stuff that goes into this stuff. I'm not trying to stray off track, but one thing in the NWA movie they touch upon is the power of telling your own story on your own terms. Is the power of owning your own intellectual property, owning your creativity as an artist, as a creative being, and how that really creates the foundation for generational wealth. Like I told you, the sister Betty Shabazz, may she rest in peace, she sold the rights to that movie for whatever reason. She might have had some financial issues and stuff. And that's something we need to talk about when it relates to a legacy like Malcolm X. How it's basically been pirated by the powers that be, and by, even well-meaning people have used Malcolm's image, words, all this stuff to make money. And the family has not been compensated for the loss. of their father and even their mother, and what the family went through overall. It's like Dr. King family. They went through a lot of hell. People say, well, why the King family? Why his sons and daughter? Why they act the way they do? Hell, they not normal. They crazy. Look what happened to their family. Their father was assassinated at 39. Then the next year they lose their uncle under mysterious circumstances. Hell, their family been watched by the federal government since the 19 teens. So the King family has been on surveillance for the most of the 20th century. And so you got people in your inner circle that betray you. You know, look, Dr. King's mom got killed in her church by a black man back in the early 70s. You know, June 30th, 1972. She was killed playing the organ in the Ebenezer Church, where they just recently put 4 Confederate flags outside the Ebenezer Baptist Church. You know, and people talking about it's not about hate, it's about heritage. Come on now. So they found themselves a whole bunch of stuff that we don't even, a lot of us are not even aware of, because we're not controlling our narrative. We don't take the time to tell this history and preserve it for generations. And that's the problem. Like Ralph Ellison pointed out in The Invisible Man, if you don't tell your story, you will always be the marginal or invisible character in the telling of your own story. So I applaud Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, and even Eazy's widow, Tamika Wright, for being hands-on with this project for the most of its time existing. Seeing it from the fetus stage, you know, the time of conception all the way through it being born, their baby. The baby is $1 million baby. It's a multi-million-dollar baby. Making money in history. And changing the paradigm once again, excuse me. But in the movie they touch upon, you know, like Ice Cube said in an interview recently I heard a couple years ago during the recent NBA lockout. I never forget what he said. He said something to the effect that just because that's the most money you ever seen in your life doesn't mean that's the best deal to take. Let me repeat, to paraphrase Ice Cube in the interview during the NBA lockout, when he was asked about his thoughts about the NBA lockout, he said, just because that's the most money you ever seen in your life does not mean that's the best deal to take. And I remember listening to Bishop T.D. Jakes. Now, I'm not really a church guy, but, you know, when I hear something good, I tend to internalize it and then amplify it. He said something to the fact, you must have the ability to walk away from a good deal. I repeat, you must have the ability to walk away from a good deal. And people always say there's missed opportunities. Nah, all opportunities are in the future. You make your luck. You make your opportunities. You create your reality. NWA didn't wait for Sony or Universal or any other big major player in the industry to sign them. NWA was the creation of brothers who came together and manifest their reality. NWA was created by Eazy-E, who saved up money from doing illicit things in the community like drug dealing. From my understanding, he either had $200,000 to $250,000 when he started Ruthless Records. He used his drug money and made it into legitimate money. He turned blood money into good money, I guess. But people say, oh, that's horrible. I said, hell, how do you think America was made? Who do you think found America? Gangsters, pirates, thieves, rapists, degenerates founded America. If you want to be honest about it, but what we do is, or what they do is, history is propaganda. History is a weapon. They sanitize their people. You know, Thomas Jefferson raped a whole bunch of black women, okay? Let's be honest. George Washington got his share in too. Why do you think so many black folks named Washington and Jefferson and Jackson? Think about this, people. They sanitize the image. You know, they could give Bill Cosby the Thomas Jefferson treatment or the Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus is one of the biggest rapers in the history of the planet. You know, people always talking about Genghis Khan, but hell, look at Christopher Columbus, and they got a holiday for him. It's a federal holiday. So what they tell you about the United States when they worship their gods and goddesses that they put on a certain pedestal? And then you got black folks talking about NWA, you know, causing the grief in the black community. But they, like they said in the movie, they didn't bring the weapons from Russia. They don't have no passports to bring the drugs up from South America. So who's really doing all that? And we know who's doing all that. Gary Webb exposed that. Another West Coast person. His series of stories about Iran Contra and what they was doing when they brought the drugs and weapons into America, into the inner cities of America. Rick Ross told us all this is documented. You go Gary Webb's Google up Dark Alliance. And then look at the Kill the Messenger movie that came out last year. Because a lot of us don't really read to empower. A lot of us don't read at all. We are a very illiterate society. We're not illiterate. There's a lot of people who are parents, they illiterate. They choose not to read, which make their kids illiterate. They don't know how to read. And reading is power. And once again, go back to NWA story. When Ice Cube is the same Ice Cube, his son did a brilliant job of portraying his father. Looked just like him. Essence, spirit, acting, natural. When he was in the scene with Ice Cube and Jerry Heller, played by the great character actor Paul Giamatti. He's one of my favorite actors. I love his movie. He's a brilliant actor. And they picked the right person to play Jerry Heller. But when Ice Cube confronted him for the last time about where the money at, where the contract at, Jerry, because Easy been taken care of, but where's the contract for the other fellas? And then Jerry Heller pulled out this check for $75,000, and then he had some paperwork, and he wanted Cube to sign it blindly. And Cube refused to take the money and to sign the paperwork. Because he said, where's my lawyer? I need a lawyer to look at this. He said, I don't understand this type of stuff. He said, well, you got to trust me, man. Just trust me. No, you can't, Manhattan was sold for less than $25, right? They gave the Indians, Native Americans some trinkets for Manhattan. Look at Manhattan now. It's the most valuable real estate in the world. Okay? You can't do no handshake deals. You never really could do a handshake deal with the devil. People beg the devil for mercy every day. The devil can't give you mercy. The devil can only give you more hell. So while I say in the movie, that's a pivotal scene to me where Ice Cube walks away. He breaks away from NWA. And then he didn't, do no Vaseline. He said a Jew try to break up the crew. And that's another interesting thing. That was another great scene in the movie where they, the group, the remaining NWA members, they're in Easy Home listening to No Vaseline, the classic, battle rap, or, they talk about Meek Mill and Drake. That's not really battle rap, and that's not even, Meek Mill. Okay, he should have retired after what happened with that, man. That's not no Cool Mo D or LL Cool J. It's none of that. It's not even LL Cool J and Cannabis. Meek Mill and Drake was. So anyway, getting back to that, and then Jerry Heller in the scene. It's funny. He got mad and called Ice Cube anti-Semitic for mentioning the word Jew, and Jerry Heller is Jewish. But he got mad at. See, think about the psychology. It's okay to call black folks niggas and black women bitches and hoes, but as soon as he says something that's factual, so he says something about the Jew who did divide and conquer. If you look at the story, it's about divide and conquer. Because white power is based on divide and conquer. White power was what broke up NWA. Black power is based on solidarity and unity. Black power and unity is what created NWA. White power and divide and conquer is what destroyed or undermined the group. And so, Jerry wanted to go to war, wanted to bring in the Anti-Defamation League and all these people to go to war against Ice Cube and to basically end his career. And Easy said, it's just a battle, rap. It's no big, we respond on wax, we respond in the studio. But it's like, it reminds me, another story about Clyde Davis and P. Diddy. When P. Diddy did All About the Benjamin, which was a banger, All About the Benjamins, right? And he had a line there that said, stack chips like Hebrews. And Clyde Davis was furious with P. Diddy. As a matter of fact, I believe he had to retract or redo the track of the song without that line, stack chips like Hebrews, which means I don't think it's it's not inflammatory at all. It's not disrespectful. It's just paying respect, that showing that, Jewish people know how to make money. They know how to keep money, know how to make money, know how to circulate it in their best interest. And that's acknowledged, because even in Europe, when Jewish people couldn't own land, they were still the Shylocks, the loan sharks. They still was the financiers, the banksters, whatever you want to call them. They still held on to that money. So I mean, it's just like even with Michael Jackson. You talking about Jew me, sue me? That line, he had to take it out. You know, he's the king of pop, one of the most influential musicians of all time of any millennia. He had to take that line out. You know, and they accused him of being anti-Semitic. And I'm trying to figure out. You know, the media has a Jewish presence in it. I mean, Hollywood was created by Jews. This is not. You know what? When you say that, when you mention a fact that makes you anti-Semitic, come on, man. I mean, Universal is owned by the Bronfman family. They Canadian Jews who started Seagrams. And they also were bootleggers with Al Capone and Joe Kennedy. Joe Kennedy, the patriarch of the Kennedy family, he was in the movie business, Hollywood film producer. He had a long relationship with Gloria Swanson, one of the early movie stars of the 20th century. I think Gloria Swanson. And, you know, so, like I said, this is America. And like Tupac said, niggas been dying for years, so how can you blame us? So, yeah, like I said, it was a lot of interesting things in the movie. They talked about, you know, about the reality of the business, about police brutality. When I talk about the business, I'm talking about the entertainment industry, the reality of that, and also police brutality. Now, the thing they did not talk about, it was glaring if you know the history, is the fact that, you know, Dr. Dre's issues with beating up on women. And the misogyny of the rap lyrics, the misogyny culture that they promoted in NWA. Now, they didn't create the environment. They, like they said, they're reality rappers. They were reporting. They're like, you know, they on the ground reporting what was going on in the hood. And they amplified it throughout America and the world, let people know what was going on. But at the same time, they endorsed and they promoted hatred of women. And in particularly black women. You know, let's be honest. Because they from Compton. They from the hood. These brothers from the hood, they were dealing with black women at the time. Before they was able to get, you know, before they had the upgrade in status, most of the women they were dealing with were black women. So they were basing these things, like they said, reality rap on their experiences. So they was talking about black women. Like even the song Ice Cube, a bitch is a bitch. And I'm not trying to be hard on these brothers by any means. Because even Ice Cube, when he was interviewed, I believe it was by D Barnes or somebody, he about 20, man. Ice Cube, these guys were young when they started NWA. I think Ice Cube was the youngest. He was, you know, still in high school or barely out of high school. Maybe had a year left. And other guys were in their 20s. But what I'm saying is, if you also think about the fact that your brain is not fully developed till you're about 26 years old. So when you're young, you're going to be dumb on some things, all right? But at the same time, that was not brought up. I think that's interesting because Dre has a long history. And even in, you know, his raps and songs, even Eminem and some other people point out, you slapped D Barnes. But he did more. According to a lot of, you know, even from D Barnes and other people who was there, he almost killed that sister. You know, he slammed her head into the wall. And I read her take. I'm glad she was able to get out her point of view and Gawker recently about what she experienced. She still have migraines to this day. Like she said in her interview, she said when she hear Dr. Dre keep their heads ringing, it's a bomb song, but it has a different meaning for her because her head does ring. Because she has chronic migraines based on what happened to her. I be back in January of 1991. Dr. Dre beat up in the club, and all these black men, like if we had World Star Hip Hop 20-something years ago, brothers probably would have uploaded it, you know, because nobody stopped that beating. Oh, it was one brother who tried to stop it, who actually worked for Ruthless. And Dr. Dre bodyguard ended up knocking him in the mouth with his gun, knocking out a couple of his teeth. But he actually tried to intervene in the beating of D Barnes, the reporter, who was for a hip-hop show out in L.A., a very popular hip-hop show out in L.A. on Fox. It's kind of a misunderstanding. I believe that NWA did an interview with her, and then she also did an interview with Ice Cube on the set of Boys in the Hood, which is another instant classic that you could never get tired of looking at. Brilliant movie with brilliant acting done by Ice Cube, his acting debut. And also by the director known as John Singleton. Yeah, Cuba Gooding Jr. and Lauren. It's a class. Lawrence Fishburne, Angela Bassett. Man, it was brilliant. But anyway, Ice Cube, I guess he saw what NWA saw or said. And he said something that was very inflammatory, I believe. And you probably find all this stuff online. And so, you know, NWA was not pleased when they saw, you know, their interview being followed by the interview with Ice Cube. They said some, you know, inflammatory things about NWA, and Sister D Barnes claimed that she tried to get the people who was producers on her show to not put that clip of Ice Cube with MWA, but they couldn't understand because she was afraid at the time that it might lead to something on the streets. This is like several years before the Tupac Biggie tragedies that happened back in 96 and 97, respectively. So she was at a club, I guess for a party, an album party for a female rap group. And Dr. Dre, I guess, approached her. He said to the fact that he grabbed her by her ear and hair and just started pounding her head into a wall. Then took her into the restroom. She was on the ground. He was pummeling her. And she kind of like, man, it's powerful. I mean, if you had video footage, it would have been disturbing. But she kind of likened it to what happened to that sister in the bikini at that pool party down in McKinney, Texas this year. Or what happened to the sister who was getting beat up by the highway patrol out in California, was getting pummeled. And this person, all they did was video record it. Or when the officer put his knee all in the sister back on the bikinis, who's in the grass, yanking her hair. Nobody tried to do anything except for some young brothers who was almost killed because a cop would reach for his gun and start chasing them. And they stopped. And for whatever reason, he didn't plot his gun and kill them brothers or kill anybody, which is a blessing. But that's what I'm talking about. That wasn't talked about in the movie. And then Miss Chalet recently interviewed talking about how Dre beat the hell out of her. And Miss Chalet is interesting because she was a brilliant collaborator. I love her song "Something in My Heart" that was produced by Dr. Dre, and she was with Dr. Dre for about 5-6 years on a romantic way, if you call it romance. They had a son together, but he used to beat the hell out of Miss Chalet, and she talked about it recently in a couple of interviews. Excuse me, but these are stories that have not been told in the movie, and I guess it would be hard. But their stories need to be heard and amplified. But like Dee Barnes said, she's glad that her scene was not reenacted in the movie because it would be too traumatic. But also, I have much respect for the sister because she thought it was well done. She gave it props and stuff like that. She thought it was a story that needed to be told. But she also, thought, hey, they did not talk about this part that happened. And she was real close to NWA. She was a rapper herself back in the day. And she was like they were like, her brothers. Like, she was their sister. And so that falling out was hard. And also she said she had the chance to make amends with Easy. They had a very nice last talk. And she was glad about that. It's like it brought her some peace of mind. But you could just Google up Dee Barnes and that Gawker story. It's well worth the read. I mean, I'm just glad that, because that was one of the things I thought about after I saw the movie. They really didn't talk about the women role. I mean, the women were shown as groupies and stuff like that, and you had Dr. Dre's mom in there, and he had Ice Cube's wife, who was played by the sister who played Aaliyah. Talking about night and day when it comes to biopics. in a Lifetime horror show, Aaliyah, that was produced by Wendy Williams, that did not include any of her family, which probably made a difference in this movie because you had the actual members included, and even the widow Eazy-E. They all were included as consultants and producers on the movie. But also, F. Gary Gray, like I said, was Dee Barnes' cameraman. And he actually filmed the Ice Cube dish on the set of Boys in the Hood. And so he's, like she said, he's been quiet about his part in there. And maybe if he was more vocal, it would cause more problems. But, I guess that's why he was able to be friends with them for 20 plus years. But it is what it is. But the sister was blackballed from the industry after that, which is unfortunate. And people know she had a settlement. She got a civil settlement out of court with Dr. Dre for beating her back in, I believe, in 93. But, like she said, it was not even $1 million. So people think she got paid off really well. But she's been trying for years to get back in the industry, and she's been blackballed. And matter of fact, when she and Set It Off, when it came out, another classic that was directed by F. Gary Gray, she tried out for the part that Kimberly Elise got in the movie. And she actually, she did a damn thing on that trial, according to sources. But Gary Gray told her, hey, Dr. Dre's playing Black Sam, and I can't have you in this movie. So this is back in the late 90s, so they still had issues with that. I think it was 96 or 97. But I say all this to say that Dr. Dre's issue with women were not brought up. Had they been brought up, it might have, I don't know, it's powerful to me. Because even like you look at What's Love Got to Do with It, another biopic about black entertainer Tina Turner and a relationship with another entertainer named Ike Turner, who's an unsung. Ike Turner, when that movie came out, he was not ever able to live down that role of him being a woman beater, a woman hater. And even Tina Turner, in her own words, you can look all this stuff up. She said that they overdid the beatings in the movie. It was very hyped up and sensationalized, over sensationalized. And to this day, when you think about Ike Turner, you don't think about his brilliant music contributions. You don't think about the fact he was an innovator, a music genius. You think about the fact he used to beat the shit out of Tina Turner. But the thing about it was interesting. Tina Turner kept his last name. And I remember, Ike Turner died in 2007, like December 2007. And I remember reading an article, I don't know, it was Ebony or Essence or something. And Tina Turner family, they said, we love Ike Turner. Ike got a bad rap. I mean, he was very close to Tina's family. I guess to the day he died. It had all these great, words for Ike Turner. And what people don't understand about Ike Turner, he didn't start really beating up on Tina Turner until he started getting on drugs. See, back in the day, Ike Turner was living clean. He was a clean guy. He was the business manager, because Tina Turner talked about how when they be performing at gigs and whatnot, it'd be these white men from the industry will be approaching her and saying, look, we want you to be solo. We want you sign you as a solo act. He said, no, I'm not doing that. You got to talk to Ike. Ike is the business manager. Ike handle everything. Ike is my business manager. Ike, if he found out that you using drugs or stuff like that in his group, he'll fire you. Because Ike was about, being on time, being professional. This before he started dealing with the drugs. And, Ike Turner was a idol and a mentor for Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley looked up to Ike Turner. He used to follow him around, according to some sources, like a puppy dog in Memphis and stuff. Because Ike Turner was the talent scout for Sun Records. And, that's the label founded by Sam Phillips, who discovered, quote unquote, Elvis Presley. But when Sun was first started, Sam Phillips wanted to record black artists and make them acceptable to mainstream America, which is white America. The first artists he recorded were people like Muddy Waters and B.B. King and Howlin' Wolf. He said Howlin' Wolf was the greatest artist he ever recorded and talent he ever had, and he wished he could have really made him a superstar. I think he said Howlin' Wolf and Johnny Cash was his two greatest artists. But Howlin' Wolf in particular, he was really mesmerized by just the musical genius and just the originality of Howlin' Wolf. But anyway, Ike Turner arguably cut the first rock and roll record, Rocket 88, which is about a Oldsmobile car. Rocket 88, Ike Turner, with Jackie Brenston. I guess, and then called, I want to say they're Rhythm Kings or the Delta Cats, whatever. But that's arguably the first rock and roll record of note, they say. So, but when we think about Ike Turner, what I just say, we talk about him beating up on Tina Turner. Now, Ike Turner tried to tell his story, but he ended up being blackballed. He put out his own autobiography. I think it was it was the Virgin people, the Virgin Company. They refused to distribute it, but his distribution for his book was blocked because they didn't want to get his side of the story out. And then once you find out about Ike Turner, when he was growing up in Mississippi, you had older black women. I mean, when he was 12 years old, you had black women in 30s and 40s sleeping on him. So you had these black women preying on him at the age of 12 and 10, sleeping with him. And now, look at later life, he beat up on Tina. That's all we know about. We don't know about the backstory of Ike Turner and also his musical contributions, which is a shame. And I guess with Dr. Dre, if they focus on that with the women beating, not making an excuse for him, because the court, you got the court records and stuff like that. You can look this stuff online, and you got people like Miss Chalet who had a child with him and was with him for 5 or 6 years, also a music collaborator. He's beat the shit out of her, and he beat the shit out of D Barnes. But that would have took some shine off the NWA biopic. That would have took some shine off of it. And I guess that's why they stirred away from him. But here's the thing. They getting Bill Cosby shit that allegedly happened 40, 50 years ago. So they could always get Dr. Dre. That's always going to be over his head. They can always bring it up 30 or 40 years later, especially for young people and people that's not familiar with his, I'm talking about, you look at the fact, like I said, with Bill Cosby, that stuff allegedly happened 30, 40, 50 years ago. They can always bring that stuff back on you. They can always hold it over your head because See, people gotta understand what power is. Power is not about being squeaky clean. If you are squeaky clean, they won't let you have access. They won't let you have power. They gotta have some shit on you, just like the Clintons. Look up the Clinton Chronicles, the documentary online about Bill Clinton and them. You know, and people talking about, well, Bill Clinton's dirty, Hillary's dirty, Hillary Clinton's dirty. I say, hey, all dirty. Because you gotta be dirty in order to play the game. If you got no dirt in your uniform, that means you're not playing hard enough. Think about Pete Rose. Pete Rose, he was dirty. In terms of, like, he was willing to play dirty. He was, we call him Charlie Hustle. This man was willing to steal home. That's why he got the most hits in the history of baseball, because he was willing to do whatever it takes to get a hit by any means necessary. He won several championships with the Big Red Machine of the 70s. Cincinnati Reds baseball team, one of the great baseball dynasties of all time. Had more hits than anybody in the history of the game. And was even gambling on the game, which is ironic because there's a lot of folks that own baseball that was in the organized crime, that was in the gambling. Think about the 1919 Black Sox scandal, but they blackballed Pete Rose, but he also built a World Series team that won the World Series the next year after they blackballed him. You know, Lou Piniella, he was the manager at the time when they went to the World Series, the Cincinnati Reds, and won. But that was the team that Pete Rose built, that he got credit for. So think about that. So to me, you know, baseball in general, they promote a culture of cheating. It's like, that's why it's America's pastime. Because America's empire is built on cheating and stealing and robbing and raping and killing. So you gotta start thinking about that stuff. Like Tupac, niggas been down for years, so how can they blame us? So I'm saying all this stuff. Even, man, what, you ain't talk about the movie really? Yeah, I'll talk about the movie. Because let's get back. You know, they put this part about Dr. Dre and his woman issues. They showed Dr. Dre, you know, punching out big bodyguards, husky bodyguards and stuff like that. And that's another thing. The portrayal of Suge Knight in the movie. Now, that's very interesting. And you think about what's going on with Suge right now in real life. How, you know, potential jury members or whatever, people look at that movie because a lot of people have seen this movie already. It made over $60 million. You think about the potential jurors and stuff, people in his case, involved in his case right now. And he's fighting for his life right now. Suge is. And how he's portrayed in the movie. I'm not saying that none of that stuff happened, but, you know, it's a movie. It's a movie. You know, and people, they take what they saw in the movie and say, hey, I knew Suge was dirty. But that's Dr. Dre's point of view. That's Ice Cube's point of view. That's not the Suge story. That's the NWA story. So I think Suge should have a fair chance to tell his story on his own terms as well. I think we all should, you know, fight for the right to tell our story on our own terms. And really fight for that right. And, you know, but the movie was well done. As far as what a movie's supposed to be, it was that movie. And like I said, I'll watch it again. And also, you know, the rewriting the history. You know, they say, well, NWA started gangster rap. That is not true. You know, gangster rap existed before NWA. You know, it started on the East Coast, actually. If you think about it, you know, you think about it from a hip-hop history point of view, you had KRS-One with Boogie Down Productions with the late Scott LaRock involved in that. You know, KRS-One, Boogie Down Productions. Listen to some of that old stuff. And KRS-One, one of the all-time great rappers. He's one of the GOATs, okay? And also you got, you know, Schoolie D, who's the prototype for gangster rap, for gangster rappers. That's Schoolie D, who's out of Philadelphia. We gave us in real life, you know, the organized crime people, the Black Mafia. You know, it was headquartered in that mosque, in the Black Muslim mosque down in Philly. So you had Schoolie D, you had KRS-One. Then you go to the left coast, the west coast. You got Ice-T, you got Too Short. Too Short, you know, it's one of my first people I ever listened to a rap. Too Short. So I was from the MC. But it's funny. But anyway, I'm dating myself. But what I'm saying is the revisionism is interesting because they say NWA invented gangster rap, which is not true. Which is not true. It already existed in some type of form. Even if you go back to the blues and black folk music and all this other stuff, you have the gangster rap protagonist or antagonist. And you got Stagger Lee. Think about Frankie and Johnny. You don't think that's gangster rap, Frankie and Johnny or Stagger Lee? Come on now. Do the research. Or even like look at the blues song like Joe Turner's come and gone. You know, there's a lot of stuff, man. All this stuff existed before. Like, once again, Tupac said niggas been down for years, so how can they blame us? But it's interesting. I'll tell people too. I joke around with people, but I'm serious at the same time. You could break down hip hop history as it relates to rap music into two periods. You know, you got BC, before Chronic, and AD after Dre. Because, you know, I'm talking about the Chronic, the seminal album did by Dr. Dre when he was on Death Row, when he, you know, left Ruthless Records and went to Death Row Records, which he founded with Suge Knight. He's a co-founder. And he did the Chronic. It changed the game because before that, on the radio, you had everybody on the radio. You had Will Smith, Queen Latifah. Will Smith was and DJ Jazzy Jeff were the first rap artist to be nominated for a Grammy Award and win a Grammy Award. So you had LL Cool J, Queen Latifah. You had X-Clan, De La Soul, Public Enemy. You had all types of genres of rap represented. You know, Digital Underground, the Humpty Dance, Had Fun Rap. Think about JJ5, another unsung that was not mentioned in the NWA story. You know, JJ5 was Supersonic. I remember that hype, dope songs and album. So you had all this happen on the radio. You even had, like, you know, positive, like, you know, hip hop. Like, you had the song Self Destruction. We had it for Self Destruction. That was the East Coast. Then you hit the West Coast with Miss Chalet singing her "We All in the Same Game." So yeah, we all in the same game. Yeah, Self Destruction. All this stuff was getting played on the radio. Big Daddy Kane, Eric B. and Rakim, Kid and Play. I can name all this stuff, and I'm dating myself. But what I'm saying is, after the Chronic came, like the DOC, the paraphrase DOC, the formula was created by the powers that be. We're gonna promote this misogynistic, violent, hyper masculine, hyper everything that's bad. We're gonna promote this as the formula, and then we're gonna control the masses. That was the powers that be that did that. People always looking for some type of conspiracy theory where everybody got into one room and they plotted this out, and this is how it's going to be for the next 25, 30 years. And, you know, I'm more like, you know, it's not conspiracy theory. Conspiracy is that's the reality, that they plotted this point. You look at COINTELPRO. COINTELPRO, the most damaging thing they was able to do was by media manipulation. Not just assassinating a person physically, but assassinating a person's character through the media. You know, for example, with the Black Panther Party, you know, yeah, a lot of Black Panthers were killed. Like, you know, Chairman Fred Hampton Sr. out of Chicago. You got what happened on UCLA campus with Bunchy Carter, Apprentice Bunchy Carter, and John Huggins getting killed by the US organization, supposedly through the workings of the FBI. But the FBI would actually send coloring books that they claim were done by the Black Panther Party that depicted the Black Panthers killing police officers, and okay, it's kind of put fear in white America. They actually will mail these coloring books to certain neighborhoods and addresses, I guess, to white people to get them to see the Black Panther Party in a totally different way than what was the reality. Or you think about the fact that you look at, like, for example, the parent companies for people like NBC, which is like a General Electric, or CBS, which is Westinghouse. The people that tell the news, they get their paychecks from their parenting companies, who are some of the biggest military contractors on the planet. They got big military contracts with the Pentagon. So how can you trust anything about wars and rumors of wars come from folks who make their money off of war and destruction? It's kind of like the shock doctrine by Naomi Klein. Read that book. Or if you think about the Reaganomics, father Reaganomics, Milton Friedman, they had to paraphrase him. You gotta create a crisis, real or imagined, to create a profit. That's how economics work. That's how capitalism works. You create money through division and through crisis. You know, like, all wars are fought for profit. They not fought for freedom. They not fought for anything but profit. And the people lose. You know, when you fought for, and how they get the people to sign up for wars and enlist in armies? Through media propaganda and manipulation. So, like Malcolm said, the one of the biggest gifts he gave us 50 years ago, that the media is the most powerful entity on the planet, because it can make your friends your enemy and your enemy your friend. And that's power because it controls the minds of the masses. So you got like maybe 6 corporations control 95% of the media for the most part, something like that. But what I'm telling you is that they push this stuff. Like when you listen to the radio and you listen to this song that plays over and over again, the first time you heard it was probably a real response to that song. You didn't like it. But they play it like 10 or 12 times over 1 hour or 2 hours, then you start liking the song. See, that's programming. That's manipulation. So really, you're not even thinking for yourself when you listen to stuff. So that's how powerful music is. Music do influence your mind. It does influence your mind, and it does influence your actions that influence your reality. So that's something we shouldn't downplay. Like I said, the actors did a great job. You know, a lot of them was unknowns and stuff. Ice Cube's son, O'Shea Jackson Jr., did a great job. Brother Corey Hawkins, who played Dr. Dre, did a great job. But the person who really impressed me the most was Jason Mitchell, who played Eazy-E. Now, it's interesting because in the movie, they show how Eazy-E was coughing and all this other stuff. And, you know, he ended up dying from AIDS. And it was kind of interesting how fast he died in reality. Because I remember back in the day, 20 years ago, you see images of Eazy. Because Eazy, he founded Bone Thugs and Harmony. See, they didn't really talk about that in the movie. And also, he founded Will.i.am. The Black Eyed Peas was originally on Ruthless. And he even had a Jewish rap group. I mean, kind of like Russ Simmons did with the Beastie Boys. And he signed like the first, this for Iggy Azalea for 20-something years. He signed a white female rap artist. You know, back in the day. Eazy was an interesting guy. He was like a hip-hop Berry Gordy in his own right. A very successful indie label. One of the most successful arguably of all time. He found like, you know, he was a part of one super group, the NWA. Ended up finding another hip-hop super group, Bone Thugs, and promoting them, discovering them and promoting them. And then they said, you know, I'm just saying that Eazy-E's story needs to be told on his own merit. You know, just like, this should not just be the definitive story about NWA. This should be spinning off the other stuff. And I know I looked at some of the tweets done by one of his kids, Eric Wright's daughter, Eazy-E's daughter, and she made some very valid points. Like the death scene, they should have played Crossroads by Bone Thugs and Harmony. One of the biggest hip-hop hits of all time. One of the biggest music hits of all time. It really took off. They should have played that. And also, there's conflict about how Eazy actually died. Because nobody, his wife Tamika Hart, she married him on his deathbed, literally. All the Eazy kids, I think he had like 7 kids. Nobody ever said they contracted AIDS or HIV from Eazy. And Eazy said he wasn't gay. You know, Ronald Reagan and them labeled HIV/AIDS as a gay person disease back in the 80s. But he said he wasn't gay or whatever. That he loved women. And none of the women that he was involved with ever came forward and said, hey, you know, Eazy gave me AIDS. His wife didn't have AIDS. None of his kids, none of his baby mamas contracted AIDS from Eazy. So people started saying, hey, you know, Eazy was fine, like Lazy Bone, when he was on the Foxhole show, the Jamie Foxx show on satellite radio. He said something to the fact that, you know, Eazy was fine. You know, how you say a cough go from full-blown AIDS. And even, you know, Suge Knight joked about this on Jimmy Kimmel Live. And you can see that on YouTube, the clip where Suge got his feet propped up and saying, you know, give you that, like something like Eazy-E AIDS or something like that. You know, people talking about people ejecting folks with the AIDS virus. Like, that's how you kill you. You know, and people say, oh, that's crazy. But hell, go back to the church committee findings of 1972. Now, I think it was 1970, but it was back in the 70s where Senator Frank Church from Idaho had these church committee hearings about assassinations and about COINTELPRO. And they confessed that the CIA had things that could make you have a heart attack and cannot leave traces of you being murdered. They got, you know, things, they got, you know, umbrellas could shoot out bullets, and they got all types of shit they could kill you with and make it look like it's natural causes. You see movies that detail this stuff. You know, they got all types, and people think this can't happen. Somebody could have injected Eazy with AIDS. Possibly. You think about the stuff they were trying to do to Castro in Cuba. They had stuff to make his beard fall out. They were trying to use, they had all types of crazy things they wanted to use against Castro. Or you think about what happened to Paul Robeson. I think when he was visiting the Soviet Union, he wanted to commit suicide. But a lot of people in the know, I think Paul Robeson felt like somebody gave him something that made him, you know, out of his mind. And luckily he didn't kill himself. But they would say it was suicide when in actuality somebody gave some stuff to induce what would be known as suicide. Maybe some type of drug like LSD, where they put LSD in the water in this town in France, I believe back in the 50s. All this stuff is developed over here. LSD, they'll develop in a government lab, just like anthrax, government lab through the military industry complex. So who to say that Easy didn't get AIDS? And matter of fact, we found out in the movie that Eazy-E, ended up firing Jerry Heller from his label. The guy who was once the manager of NWA, who was his business partner. He ended up getting rid of him. But what he didn't get rid of, from my understanding, was Jerry Heller doctors. He was actually, his doctors were Jerry Heller's. So a lot of people say, well, his doctors must have conspired with Jerry Heller to give Easy AIDS. I don't know. Jerry Heller's still around. I would like to talk to Jerry Heller. He wrote a book called Ruthless recently. Came out a couple years ago. And he's very accessible. He's been doing a lot of interviews recently. And so you can get his point of view as well. That's what I love about this internet. Is that you don't have to limit yourself to one source. You got all these sources you can compare and contrast. So yeah, Easy went out pretty fast for a person who went from having HIV to having AIDS. I mean, 1 minute, he's talking and visiting with folks and doing videos with Bone Thugs and Harmony. The next moment, he's lying unconscious at Cedar Sinai Hospital out in L.A. And then he released a press release before he went unconscious or went into a coma. Then he dies by March 26, 1995. But I just think that all is fascinating to me. And I just want to read the official statement from Eazy-E that he gave allegedly through his lawyer right before he went into a coma and died. I think it's very profound. And people should listen to it. But man, it's crazy out here. But you get all this information, like I said. It took me a while. I was going to talk about. No, I just told people on Friday after I saw NWA, I just tweeted it out and put on Facebook. Just saw Outta Compton, go see it. And I was going to say something about it that day, but there's just so much stuff going on, and I just it's got me so excited about doing my own research about the narrative, about the story, try to find out the things I did know and the things I didn't know. So with that said, I want to read the press release that Eazy put out. I guess people call it his last words, and get y'all take on it. But this is a press release he put out through his lawyer, and some people said it might have been edited because he used some bad words in his original statement. But here it goes. This is the press release that was put out right before he went into a coma and died. I may not seem like a guy you would pick to preach a sermon, but I feel it is now time to testify, because I do have folks who care about me hearing all kinds of stuff about what's up. Yeah, I was a brother on the streets of Compton, doing a lot of things most people look down on, but it did pay off. Then we started rapping about real stuff that shook up the LAPD and the FBI. But we got our message across big time, and everyone in America started paying attention to the boys in the hood. Soon our anger and hope got everyone riled up. There were great rewards for me, personally, like fancy cars, gorgeous women, and good living. Like real non-stop excitement. I'm not religious, but wrong or right, that's me. I'm not saying this because I'm looking for a soft cushion wherever I'm heading. I just feel that I got thousands and thousands of young fans that help to learn about what's real when it comes to AIDS. Like the others before me, I would like to turn my own problem into something good that will reach out to all my homeboys and their kin, because I want to save their asses before it's too late. I'm not looking to blame anyone except myself. I have learned in the last week that this thing is real and it doesn't discriminate. It affects everyone. My girl Tamika and I have been together for 4 years, and we recently got married. She's good. She's kind and a wonderful mother. We have a little boy who's a year old. Before Tamika, I had other women. I have 7 children by 6 different mothers. Maybe success was too good to me. I love all my kids and I always took care of them. Now I am in the biggest fight of my life and it ain't easy. But I want to say much love to those who have been down to me. And thanks for your support. Just remember, it's your real time and your real life. And here's a note. Some of his closest friends have stated that these words were not at all written by Eazy-E because they were adjusted by his lawyer for the press conference. This is probably due to the fact that Eazy-E used bad words in his statement. Okay, I read the official press release that was released via his lawyer before he passed away back in March of 1995. And also, I discovered as I was doing my research something that was very interesting. You know, I don't know what to make of this. Very like Machiavellian, very sinister, very raw and honest, I think. You know, because people are talking about this Illuminati stuff. Now, you know, this has been a recent phenomena. Folks are interested in the Illuminati. You know, people talk about the Boule, the Illuminati, New World Order and stuff like that. And I'm going to read something that I heard from Eazy-E. It sounded like Eazy-E. It's like he was on a phone being recorded. And they said this is like, you know, you Google this up, Eazy-E final message. And I basically wrote down the words of his final message. And like, wow, this guy, man, it's like, it's so deep to me on so many different levels. You can just interpret this stuff. But, you know, it's funny because this came out in 95. This is before, like, people, there's no social media around, right? You know, there was no YouTube and no Facebook back in 95. They didn't have no Twitter and stuff like that. But the fact that we have all this stuff now and we able to get information so fast, it's a nanosecond. And it's very disappointing that folks don't take advantage of this stuff. Because Eazy-E and them didn't have all this when he started Ruthless back in the 80s, man. He didn't have this stuff, and yet they was able to make it anyway. They was able to get amplified. But now, man. But I just want to read what he had to say. You can actually listen to the actual audio. But I want to read this, you know, and share it with my people. And hopefully y'all find it. Like Google search it once again. Eazy-E's final message. And this is what he said. You know, it's like, you know, the first, you know, words are all a game. Let me read this. All a game. Die like a star. Living in large. Playing the game while niggas starve. Got it going on. Wish we were there. Breaking all the rules while niggas try to play fair. Ain't nothing fair in this game of life. You gotta get yours before you lose your life. The game is designed for them to win. You think I'm lying? Visit the pen. They already got a number reserved for your ass. Don't be a fool and join their class. They want you to enroll in their institution so they can pimp you with their new form of prostitution. Wake up, my niggas, and hear me clear. Don't be a slave to this game called fear. You got a mind, you got to use it, because if you don't, they'll abuse it. Don't be a victim to their game. Learn the rules, my nigga, and do the same. There's a lot more money on that other side. And my niggas, you don't have to run and you don't have to hide. Though, I heard this, it just blew my mind. I couldn't find like the text and stuff. I had to write out myself. But all the game, Easy said it. Like he said, don't quote me because I ain't said shit. But he said something with that. The brother died in 95. He wrote about that. So what they're talking about? Is that Illuminati? You talking about Faustian deals, make a deal with the devil? You know, we just had the death date of Robert Johnson, the king of the blues, or the Delta blues singer. And he said, you know, they say he made a deal with the devil to play the blues so well, to sing and play the blues so well. And he passed away on August 16th, 1938, under questionable circumstances. They had songs like Me and the Devil and all this other stuff. And I think I heard an Easy song, I think on that 187 Kill 'Em, the Dr. Dre album he did. I think he had a song or two on there talking about he's the devil son-in-law. And people don't understand, that's some blues shit right there. That's some gangster blues shit. He actually got that from Petey Wheatstraw, who was a very popular blues singer back in the 30s and 40s. He was like the number one blues singer back in the 30s and 40s. He actually got killed, I believe, on his 40th birthday, crossing tracks for a beer run. Him and his buddies was doing a beer run in East St. Louis. They got hit by the train. But he used to call himself the High Sheriff of Hell and the Devil's Son-in-Law. So, Easy knew about the history. Easy was no idiot. Easy was a brilliant businessman. And his story really has yet to be told and how brilliant he was. Because, like I said, he not only gave us NWA, but he gave us also the first, successful white female rapper. This is for Iggy Azalea. They're like, his Tina Marie, I guess. This Tierra B. I think her name Tierra B. Also, he gave us Bone Thugs and Harmony, one of the most successful hip-hop groups of all time. There's no question about that. And then he also signed will.i.am and Black Eyed Peas. And then he had, I think, the Far Side. He had a couple. Easy, man. Damn, man. It's like very inspiring. Then to be taken away at 31. But people said they believe he was killed. And I had a friend who passed away recently, the late great Mr. Emerson Abel Jr., probably the greatest high school band director the city of Memphis ever produced. He used to play at Stax. He used to play for his former high school student who was in his band. This guy named Isaac Hayes, also known as Black Moses. He used to play for Mr. Abel. Used to play for him. A brilliant saxophonist, an arranger, and a composer. He told me, Ron, you don't die no natural death in show business. There are no natural deaths in show business. He always used to tell me that. He told me some shit that blew my mind. Saying that, he just told me, Ron, this is what really happened. I mean, he's seen it all. But he told me, Ron, there are no natural deaths in show business. So, yeah, people, like I said, the revision of the history of NWA, like people said that they brought all this gangster stuff out and it got amplified throughout the country. Like I said, when it first came out, they hardly got any radio play. But Hollywood was leading the charge, or Hollywood was leading the charge of promoting gangsterism, of that type of element that was personified by NWA, the gang violence and whatnot. Because I remember the first time I heard about gangs and whatnot was through a movie called Colors, which starred Robert Duvall and Sean Penn as a veteran LAPD officer mentoring a rookie LAPD officer. I guess they was patrolling South Central or South Los Angeles, as they say now, but it's known as South Central. And they actually promoted the gang violence and they showed the gang lifestyle through that movie. It was a piece of propaganda that was financed and promoted by white Hollywood. And I believe Dennis Hopper was the director and producer on that movie Colors. And Ice-T, not Ice Cube, not NWA, another, pioneer of gangster rap genre. Before NWA, Ice-T did the theme song, Colors. See, people want to blame Tookie Williams, who this year will mark the 10th anniversary of him being assassinated by the state. They say he's the co-founder of the Crips. Yeah, I guess so in a certain way, but actually, the Crips was founded by Raymond Washington, who was shotgunned to death on a street corner in South Central at the age of 26 back in 1979. He was actually the founder of the Crips, but they give Tookie Williams co-founder OG credit. Tookie Williams spent most of half of his life in locked up, so he couldn't spread the gang stuff throughout the country. It's like Rick Ross couldn't spread all those drugs and stuff throughout the country without no help from the CIA and their connects. You think about Mena, Arkansas. It was a place, they had an airport, and when Bill Clinton was the governor of Arkansas, it was an airport in Mena, Arkansas, where a guy named Barry Seal, who was a pilot and a drug, he was flying in drugs from South America
with the help of the CIA. And they distributed the drugs throughout the country. So Rick Ross didn't have that type of connect. Rick Ross couldn't even graduate from high school because he couldn't even read. He had a tennis scholarship. Rick Ross was a tremendous athlete. His gift was in tennis. And he had a tennis, but he couldn't read. He was functionally illiterate. So, they trying to say this black man in South Central caused the crack epidemic in America. Get real. Follow the paper trail. Like I said, Gary Webb with Dark Alliance. That series of articles is still available online. The movie Killed the Messenger. We talks about Gary Webb, who quote unquote killed himself back in 2004, supposedly. Shot himself twice in the head, supposedly. Yeah, but I'm saying it was Hollywood that promoted this stuff. It was like I remember when I read Snoop Dogg autobiography. You think about all the gangster rappers when you look at Yo MTV Cribs and stuff. Or even look at, every gangster rapper scene had a Al Pacino poster of him in Scarface. They had the Scarface DVD, the Godfather DVDs, whatever they had back in the day. They all had these posters of Al Pacino and Scarface, the Godfather. So to me, who really did more damage? Ice Cube or Robert De Niro or Al Pacino? Who's doing the most damage? Hollywood or Hollywood? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out. Ice Cube and them did a song back in the day called "Burn Hollywood Burn." Well, somebody got to burn, right? So what I'm saying is, I want people not to be force fed this bullshit narrative that they pushing now, this revisionist history. I'm not talking about I ain't talking about the movie in particular. I'm talking about overall, where we get so sidetracked and tunnel vision of how things really were. Let's take it all in, because 100 years ago, it was a powerful piece of propaganda that came out called The Birth of a Nation, which reignited the Klan down in Stone Mountain, Georgia back in 1915. They came out 100 years ago. Now, 100 years later, we got, the NWA movie. And also, I always tell people, compare it to Selma. It's funny. These two historical films come out in the same year. Selma came out at the beginning of the year. Brought to life. I ain't bring to life. Brought to the screen the story of the Selma movement, which allegedly led to the passage of the Voting Rights Act in 1965. And they want you to believe that black folks, we got all these quote unquote rights by being peaceful while they whoop our asses and singing songs that were like death tunes. But they want us to believe now they got NWA coming out. See, Selma's about the good niggas. NWA is about the bad niggas, arguably the most dangerous group in the world. NWA. But also, I would like to see a movie about Two Live Crew. Luke Skywalker was like our Lenny Bruce. He was hip hop version of Lenny Bruce. I mean, they actually went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court for the right to say the stuff that they said. They deserve a movie too. The Florida Boys, they deserve a movie. I would love to see that movie, but it got to be told from Luke Skywalker and their point of view. They got to have control of telling the story. I like to see how they'll spin it. And Luke Skywalker, they talking about he was misogynistic. I guess he had the player's curse. I think all his kids are daughters. He got nothing but daughters, from my understanding. So he had the player's curse. It's like Iceberg Slim, He had nothing but daughters. But anyway. But like I said, y'all can research everything I'm saying. I'm just trying to put something else in y'all ear because I see how people going in right now on social media about the movie. It's a movie. It's not going to necessarily change your life. It's propaganda. It's important. It supports a certain thing. It supports a certain narrative. But I just want to get people to see the power of the black experience and all its paradigms. And I know it's funny. I remember reading something about the great filmmaker, pioneer, black filmmaker named Oscar Micheaux or Micheaux, whatever. We all get caught up in how Du Bois. I mean, VC. I don't really care. Let's know the history, baby. Roosevelt, both right. Tomato. Well, Oscar Micheaux, he said something that was very powerful. I'm paraphrasing him. He said, "If you need three things to be successful, I guess in the movie business, you need to have control of three things. There's three things that makes you successful. He's at, let's see, the talent, distribution, and finance. If you got 1 out of 3, you're a voice. But if you control 2 out of 3, you're a force. He said something to that effect. But he's like, you need 3 things. You need talent, finance, and distribution in order to be successful in the movie business. That's basically any business. You need talent, finance, and distribution. You be able to control 1 or 2 out of 3. So, yeah, people need to look at his movie. I know he did a movie that was in response to Birth of a Nation, which it was called Within Our Gates. And a lot of stuff he had to do on first take, because of his shoestring or non-existent budget. But I looked at some of his movies and I enjoyed them. He also helped discover people like Paul Robeson. Gave them their first roles. Like I think Paul Robeson, Body and Soul, it's back in the 20s. But we need to know our history. We need to have knowledge itself, because our people don't just perish because of lack of knowledge. Our people perish because of lack of knowledge of self. And so I applied once again NWA, because there's a lot of stuff they didn't tell. I mean, the movie was almost 3 hours long, but there's so much stuff to talk about. They didn't tell everything, but I think there's more movies to be made just from that template, And we do need to talk about, the misogyny and stuff in rap culture and stuff, or rape culture, the American culture. But you just can't blame the symptoms without acknowledging the root causes of the illness. America is a spiritually sick country. It's like what Dr. King said. We're integrating into a burning house. Because the problem was, black people, we used to be the moral compass of this country with some clarity. Now we still are the moral conscious and compass of this country, but we kind of confused now. The compass is really screwed up right now because we confuse assimilation with integration. And to have any real power in this system, you must have a coherent identity that the group approves of, not anybody else. It must be approved upon by the group. This identity supported by a narrative that's approved by the group and that is pushed by that group. Because power is not about money. Power is it's bigger than money. Power is about knowing who you are or claiming your own identity. Power is about do for self. That's where power comes from. Power comes from doing for self and getting results. It does not come from how much money you got in the bank. There's a lot of wealthy people or rich people that are stupid like a motherfucker. They stupid. And they even inherited the wealth. It's like, for example, he's a billionaire, but hey, he had $500 million to start out with. He's a billionaire, but he filed for bankruptcy 4 times. He already had a lot of money to start off with. He inherited the money. I ain't gonna say nobody's name, but I'm saying people are impressed by stuff like that. I'm more impressed with Charlie Parker, who for 4 years of his life he practiced his saxophone 10 to 15 hours a day. That's more impressive than somebody inheriting $500 million and then fucking it over and then fucking over some more and keep on getting chance because of his skin privilege. I ain't gonna say no names, but it is what it is, and the same person can be president, but Charlie Parker couldn't be president as brilliant as he was. So, and people say, well, Charlie Parker did drugs, so did FDR, so did Andrew Jackson, so did Bill Clinton. All of them did it. Like, I don't know whether people know the history of the presidents. They all screwed around, and all people, Warren G. Harding. I said, well, Warren G. Harding was the first black president. No offense to Bill Clinton or Barack Obama. That's another podcast. I'm gonna do that at home. Now this one, but yeah, just giving y'all some food for thought.
Yeah, I want to leave y'all with that, but I hope I touched on anything that could be relevant, and I hope I know it. Over an hour I'm just talking and stuff like that, but there's so much stuff to talk about, and I'm just gonna take a break right now. But let me know what you thought about the movie. I'm sorry I went over so long, but it's like, I think people need to go see the movie. I think you do yourself a disservice if you don't see that movie, based on the fact that you don't want to support misogyny and all this stuff and gangster rap. I can understand that. I can understand that. But here's the thing: you got to understand the history of this country. The entertainment industry was not ever made for the enjoyment of black folks. See, black people, our misery is white folks' entertainment. Our misery, our tragedies our white folks' entertainment. That's the basis for the entertainment industry in America. Because Ira Aldridge, look him up, ladies and gentlemen, scholars and laymen. He was one of the greatest Shakespearean actors of all time. But the problem was Ira Aldridge was a black man. Even being in New York City, he couldn't find, after the African Grove Theater burnt down. And we only know about our history. The African Grove Theater, look that up. That was a popular theater in New York, ran and created by African Americans. And it burned mysteriously down to the ground, I believe. And Ira Aldridge, he had to leave America, no matter how celebrated he was as an actor, because he didn't want to wear the blackface. So he said, "The hell with that! I'm going over to Europe and be taken seriously for my talents." And he's recognized as one of the greatest Shakespearean actors of all time. A person who devoted their lives and talents to, acting the works of William Shakespeare, the supposed works. That's another story. Did he write all those works? He got credit for it. And with the white people, it's not important who invented it. It's more important who got credit for it. That's why the greatest invention that they say that white people ever did was the patent office. Because it's about who get there first to claim credit. It's not about the actual person who invented the invention. You look at Thomas Edison. Had a whole bunch of black folks working for him, inventing shit that he got credit for. Like people like Lewis Latimer, who put the filament in the light bulb. People like, and also designed the first phone for Alexander Graham Bell. People like Granville T. Woods. Look all this shit up, people. Like George Washington Carver used to get visited by Henry Ford. That's how he got the idea for the assembly plant. You want to be honest? George Washington Carver dealt in plants. But that's another story altogether. But look at the history of entertainment in this country. Blackface. How they started. Even look at T.D. Rice, the famous white entertainer. He created, he used blackface, to make money, make a whole bunch of money. But all he was doing was imitating black people. He was looking at black folks. He came up with Zip the Coon. That's the city slicker Negro. Then Jim Crow. He invented Jim Crow. The stereotype Jim Crow. He had people that couldn't speak a lick of English or whatever, barely could speak English, coming over here, getting into the entertainment industry, and blackening up their faces. Probably never had a black friend in their life. Think about Stephen Foster. Oh, Susanna, oh, don't you cry for me. Because coming from Alabama with a banjo on my knee. Okay? The banjo is an African instrument. But we all talking about, it's country music, banjo. Nah, banjo is an African instrument. Look how it's made. But that's another conversation for another day. But I want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to this podcast. If you like what you heard, feel free to subscribe to We All Be. And also, if you'd like to hear more of this, please feel free to donate. You can send a check on money order. Or you could go through our PayPal account. And all that information will be listed. And thank you once again. In the words of the great Duke Ellington, we love you all madly. Keep on producing and pushing.